Hey, everybody, welcome. This is Eamon Clark, the missionary entrepreneur. I travel the world in search of interesting Catholic social enterprises to get involved with and expand. Today, I have as my guest Father Patrick Morrison, OP, former Navy JAG officer, and 25 years in the Dominicans in Nigeria. And he's going to tell us all about that and what that's like. And currently, he's in the United States as the province of Nigeria-Ghana's advancement director, director of projects. So he has the task of fundraising for things related to Dominican life in Nigeria. And so we'll talk about some of that today. Father Patrick, welcome.
Thank you, Em, and I really appreciate that.
Father, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be a Dominican friar in Nigeria? Because you don't look like most friars that I know from Nigeria. So maybe you can
Yes,
take us on the tour of your discovery of the order in West Africa and what that's been like.
sure. Um, yes, mostly when am introduced to people and they maybe heard, okay, we're going to meet a Nigerian Dominican, and then they see me, they're quite surprised. And so, but as you had mentioned, I was in the Navy as a I belonged to the Judge Advocate General Corps, practiced in military justice, and I served in the military for approximately 8 years. And then after that, I got out, worked in some law firms for a short period of time, but I decided I wanted to get a computer science degree, which I did, achieved that, and worked in the industry for a while. I happened to, I was wrestling with becoming a priest. I was still young at the time, and so wrestling with priesthood. And so I went to Nigeria as a lay person who was helping them in building infrastructure for for their computer environment some years ago. And so I also met the Dominicans there. And even at that time, I never knew that I was going to be a Dominican. I was just looking around and experimenting in different observations. And when I came back to the United States, I many of my friends were encouraging me to go into the priesthood, and so I checked them all out. I knew I wanted to be a religious priest and not a diocesan. And so I wanted to live in community. So I looked at them all, Franciscans, Carmelites, and all of those ones. But I felt more closely related to the Dominicans because of their educational pillars and all of those things that they are involved with. And so after that, I had no plan on going to Nigeria. They didn't come into the picture. It wasn't until I developed some friendships in the Dominicans there in Nigeria when they knew that I was also wrestling with the priesthood. And so I originally applied here in the United States. And to make it very short, I was given the choice whether to be a Dominican here in the United States or in Nigeria. I chose Nigeria because when I was in the military, I never served continentally here in the US. It was always overseas. And I felt like I had a missionary heart, and I chose to become a Dominican. And so that's how I became a Dominican in Nigeria.
As are you the only American in the province that's actually a full
At
member,
this
solid vows?
time, yes, I'm the
Okay.
last of it was originally built from the Central Province, which is out of the Chicago area. There are four provinces here in the US, and out of the Chicago province, they have all left. And because they're older now, and some have died, and I'm the last of the Americans or that are left there.
Wow. So now you're based in Washington, D.C. I know that your full-time job there is as a hospital chaplain, but you must hear a lot of interesting takes from Americans about Nigeria. And I'm wondering, what are some things about Nigeria that Americans tend to get wrong or just fundamentally don't understand?
Sure. One of the first things I did when 25 years ago, when I was in formation, and when I go home to see friends and family, one of the funny first things that people ask, when you step outside your house, are you seeing lions? Are you seeing elephants? Are you seeing hyenas? And I would smile and say, no, we don't have any of the hundreds of years ago they were there, but they've been eradicated. And the only occasional cobra you may see or a scorpion. And so many people have this image that you're battling lions and elephants and all of those things. And I said, it's not that. And so that's the first thing that I believe that they always have that impression is this tropical forest, and you're
Yeah.
almost like Tarzan, going through the
It's just a
trees.
rainforest. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but it's not. And so, especially in Nigeria, it's a very organized country, very large, very highly populated. And so they don't really realize until when they research it online. I've had some friends, they said, wow, there's cities there. I said, yes, there's cities, very big cities. And so they were shocked with that. I think it's mostly because we're not in the news, the international news, and many of them don't travel to Africa. Most people don't go on vacation there, so they go to other places. And so little is known about Nigeria.
Sure. Yeah. I've lived with Nigerian priests before. Been trying to find a way to get down there. It's just a fascinating country, the most populous country in Africa,
Yes.
and one of the largest cities in the world is Lagos. It's what, like 25 million people or something like this, and just in Lagos.
Yes, last
Um,
recorded it was 27 million, but there are many more than that. It's not counting children and the migrants that are leaving North Nigeria because of their attacks, and many of them are now migrating to Lagos and other places in the south.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about the issues in the north in a minute. Tell me more about Dominican life. Like, what attracted you to the province? What was it about the Dominicans specifically? And then how is the charism of the order of preaching and teaching lived in Nigeria?
Okay. Well, as I said earlier on, I chose Nigeria as a Dominican because of my missionary heart. And so when I went there, Nigeria is a very big country. And yes, most of them are in the southern part, and that's where the population is at. However, there are the inner parts of Nigeria. There are people who are Catholic, and they don't even have priests to be able to go to their small towns and villages to have mass. And so that was what initially attracted me. I thought, okay, let's get out there and preach the good news to these people. Let us bring the sacraments to them. And that was my initial attraction, was for that. And so as far as Dominicans is concerned, what we do there in Nigeria, we started off in the late 1950s, and by the central province here in the U.S., and it was originally pastoral. It was in North Africa, North Nigeria, Sokoto region, and so it was pastoral. And as we grew over the decades, we are now in the south. We're in the east, and we're involved. We have primary, secondary schools. We have formerly Dominican Institute, now Dominican University, and it is impacting many people's lives. And so I felt with my education that I had gained in normal life, it also helps me there in Nigeria. So the impact of Dominicans as a whole has been very successful in Nigeria.
And then you've got a university. I know that you're trying to expand that and uh, try to actually turn it into a sui juris, like self-accredited institution or accredited directly through the Holy See rather than um, some kind of parents institution. Tell me a little
Yes.
bit more about the Dominican University in Ibadan. Am I saying
Okay.
that right?
Yes.
Ibadan?
Ibadan. Yes.
Ibadan.
Yes. And so, yes, we had started off originally Dominican Institute in the mid to later 90s. And it was primarily, of course, there's other schools for religious priests and also diocesan priests. But we wanted to establish the Dominican Institute, and its primary focus was for religious. And we have
Mm.
Carmelites, we had Franciscans, Redemptorists, lots of the sister organizations, and they primarily come there for philosophy, for pastoral, and also for theology. And we had such a large impact. And so the brothers decided to grow it into a university. We have our license, we have that, and we have huge amounts of property in Ibadan area. And so we're trying to build that. And so, but we have the land, we have the people who have the knowledge to be able to run the school, but we are currently using, we're the formerly Dominican Institute as a springboard to be able to build it into a university. It, since we do have the license, we're going to be the first Dominican university continentally in Africa. So it's going to have a lot of attention. And so we're trying to get to that level.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Juba in South Sudan, I visited the Catholic University there, and it was hopping. Like it was a place where people wanted to be. It was very clean, very organized, and you could tell people were really invested in making that work. And so to have a large Catholic university under the auspices of the order in Nigeria, that's a big deal. How many students are there now, just to give people an idea?
Well, to be truthful with you, I don't know the amount of students, but if I was to say, I would think, it's a rough estimate. I would say 800 right now, with the religious orders, and also we also have the lay people. We have several degrees in modern sciences, mathematics, and also agricultural. That many of the people from the outside are now coming to the school. We have facilities for both male and females where they can live and come to school there.
Okay, so it's a dormitories. That's all together. It's like a real
Absolutely.
university,
It is, yes.
not the jungle.
No.
No, but tell me more about the agriculture projects that you're working on, because I know that that's a big thing that I've learned is that all these dioceses and congregations and the order, they all have these farming projects, and they try to teach people how to farm. They try to sell some produce to generate revenue. Tell me a little bit more about the university's involvement with that, and the province's
Sure.
involvement with that.
Okay, yes. Yeah, we've had a lot of excitement for this agricultural degrees that we're offering to them. And one of the saving graces is that a lot of the education that I, as an American, found a little different when I first got there was that there was mostly involved in just you're in the classroom and you write down everything and regurgitate what you learned. But the laboratory environment is we have a farm. We have it called Monia Farm, and it's in Ibadan too. It's about maybe 30 minutes outside of where the university is at, and several hectares. And so, we have people who are teaching it in the former setting, sitting in the classroom, but we are now using what we have as our farm. It's a very big run farm, and we use it as a laboratory. So many of the students can come out in a laboratory setting to be able to plant and learn it in the real time, getting their hands into the soil and learning the different techniques of what agriculture is. And we also have classes there in the Monia farm for these students who are attending currently.
What are some of the goals of the program with the farm?
Well, the farm, as far as what they do there, we produce vegetables, we have animals, cows, goats that we sell. We also have a fish farm, and so all of these are there. We have various cassava, what's it called, the cocoa, a lot of different things. Corn, of course, those are common vegetables, and so and we're also allowing them to in agriculture. You can now experimentally form hybrids, and so in the sense of fruits like lemons and also mango and things like that, and so they're able to apply that in this setting in a laboratory environment in this farm. And so
Like
outside of that,
grafting onto trees and this kind of thing.
yes, yes,
That's
absolutely.
cool. And so like you want to be able to you want to get the students to be able to go do that in their own villages, their own communities, so that they have a way to sustain themselves and then be a multiplier in their own communities. That kind of
Yes.
the idea.
It is. And one of the things I've been there, of course, several times to Monia Farm, um, it's interesting because Ibadan is also a big city too. And so when you go out to this farm area, it is quiet as anything. You can hear the birds chirping and everything. And they actually have outside, of course, with a roof over it, everything of teaching and experimenting. And it's really a, to me, if I was in agricultural in school, it would be a wonderful environment. Not everybody has that ability to have it so close to the university and learn this science. So
And the farm, how many students are involved with that? Do you
I
know
don't know.
approximately?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how many they have there, but it's just the actual program started about a year and a half ago. I'm
Okay.
traveling to
So just getting up
Nigeria
and running.
in a couple of weeks, and I'm making plans to go and visit the school and also the farm.
What kinds of things are you going to be looking at when you visit the university and farm? Like what are sort of the priorities for you to see that they're doing well, and what are the kinds of challenges that you could talk about that would give people a better understanding of these projects?
Sure. As far as the ammonia farm is concerned, I being that this program has recently started a year and a half ago as actually teaching, I wanted to talk with my brothers, especially those who are involved in this program, to see as it is being applied. Like I said, one thing to have the classroom setting, and then also talking to a few of the students. How's it going? Are you learning? What are you obtaining from this? And so I'm sort of also going on a mission gathering just to see how they're doing. And then I will also share what I gather as an outsider, being that I'm here in the US and going back and checking on these things. I will be able to give feedback to my brothers to be able to make improvements, both from the students and also what I see.
So you're like an independent auditor in that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Peer
Then
review.
we've been talking about this hospital or this clinic in Lagos, St. Catherine's. That's, I know, a really big priority for the province right now. Can you tell us about that clinic and why it's so important to the order and to the city of Lagos?
Sure, I'll be happy to. The clinic, we say clinic hospital, but it's really a clinic, but we're hoping to build it into a hospital. Um, as mentioned, it's been a clinic for about 20 years, maybe a little bit more. And being that the area and population in Nigeria, and now, especially with the migrants fleeing the north and coming to the south, we offer, being that it's a clinic, we offer minor surgeries. We also, the impact on the children. We have, of course, many millions of children, and it is such an important component to the people of Lagos, especially in an area called Oshodi. And the the situations of having large populations, you have diseases, um, localized diseases like tuberculosis, AIDS, which is also still prevalent in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. And we offer these medications and all of these things. And with children, immunizations. And so it really impacts everybody, regardless of, it's a Catholic hospital clinic. And so, regardless of um, that we accept anybody, regardless of faith or religion, and we treat everybody as a person, and we treat these patients holistically, providing not only the physical part, but also they know that it's run by the Notre Dame sisters, and us as Dominicans overseeing it, and so it has an impact, and they see us as religious, and people are very happy. And also, being that we have been running this for about 20 something years, the local government is so pleased with the impact that it has on the people that they've been practically begging us, can you guys grow this? Can you grow this into a hospital? And so that is where we're left at right now of trying to do that. And it is our hope that we can be able to achieve this. And also, if it becomes a hospital in the area, being the population, a trauma center where we have specialized doctors to treat situations that is in a traumatic environment, and so that is
It's very hard to move around Lagos in these neighborhoods if
it is.
you're hurt, and the traffic, I can imagine, is
Yes, it
really
is.
difficult. And so to have a trauma center and a full hospital in your neighborhood is pretty important, way more important than it would be in other places in the world. Um,
Absolutely.
I
And we
also
all,
understand that you have like all the paperwork ready for the hospital to, which for Americans, they may not understand that that's almost like miraculous in
yes,
Nigeria to have all the approvals. It's all ready to go. It's all
yes,
done. All the bureaucracy is taken care of. They just need the funding.
yes,
It's ready to go.
yes, it
Just
is.
get started a little bit.
And you pinned it on the tail because it was very difficult to get this. But being that the local government is asking us to help to grow your hospital, so all of our paperwork, we have blueprints, we have everything ready to go to help us to take this to the next level. And so once this is done, it's going to make a humongous impact in that area where we go. We also have a pharmacy. One of the complaints, as you mentioned, of movement in Lagos is very, very difficult. And so we have a pharmacy because if you go to the local, regular government run hospital, the people have to go out and go and get their medication and travel to various areas to be able to get it. And we provide that. And people are so happy with that service that they can get the medication right there from the clinic. And so it really makes a
Yeah.
huge impact.
It's a big difference from the first world where, at the hospital or at the clinic, they actually have the
Yes,
medicine they need. It's an eye opener. Um, Other things that are kind of eye opening uh, that people are interested in would be maybe some stories about migrants from the north who are fleeing persecution up there, or even even in the southeast. And I understand that there's a lot of people coming into Lagos because it's the city, and you're
yes.
maybe a little bit safer in the city than you are out in the more rural or more isolated places of the country. Can you tell us about, just in general, the situation of violence against Christians in Nigeria, and then what that's been like in Lagos, especially?
Sure. Well, this has been a continuing problem. As I mentioned to you before, I'm about 25 years now. Even when I was in school, there was always this concern, but each consecutive year was getting worse and worse and worse. And in fact, I never been to our northern part where we have parishes in the north, and so as Dominicans, and so I always wanted to go there, but it's as being a Caucasian, it would be very troublesome, or it would be almost like suicide. And so recently, like I said, there is constant attacks on Christians. And as you mentioned, it's not just the north, it's now spreading to the east where the Igbo population is at. And so um, this kind of information is not in mainstream media. And so we don't hear it on CNN, or we don't hear it on other media news environments. And so what has been happening is it has been getting worse and worse at least in the last 5 or 6 years, even more. And um, it has now impacted people that these Muslim groups that are for violence. It has been a unwritten statement, years even when I first got there, that the Muslim sects are trying to convert Nigeria into a Muslim state, Islamic state. And so there are many Christians in the north, whether they're Catholic or whatever, that their Christian background is, and that they have been coming in, Fulani and other groups coming into these areas where the local people are living, and they're coming in for one thing: one, to take over their land. They're coming in to take over their land. They're killing, they're raping, regardless whether you're children or women or what have you. and their whole intent is to make everyone Muslim, Islamic. And so, and their also interest is that if you don't become a Muslim, forced to, they are either killed or what have you. Because of the situation that has gotten over the years, especially recent years, many of them have decided to leave their lands, just leave it there. And these people are now taking over their properties and building their own houses there and moving into it. And many of them have fled to the south and also southeast. But the reason why it's spreading into areas in and around the south now and in the middle belt is because Nigeria has this concept of um, they're cattle, mostly with the Fulani. They have cows and other things, and they have um, this government right to allow them to move their animals even through your properties to feed off grass and potentially your the vegetable gardens. And so they're moving around, and so there's been many talks. They have not been successful in the government to have cattle ranches like we have here in the United States. And so this has become a problem. What is happening in the East are mostly those people who are Fulani who are coming in with the same concept of taking land and other situations. And so that is what is causing this vast migration into the South, especially in the Lagos area. It's a big city. And so,
So the government in the north is favoring the cows of the Fulani tribesmen over the Christian population. That's
absolutely.
what
And
I'm
so
understanding.
it is.
Okay.
Many of them
Okay.
are uneducated. The only schooling that they get, they don't have formal education, and they're only being trained in the how to read the Quran and
Yeah.
basic religious for Quran.
Right. Right. And so all the incentive is to leave the north. Um, Even if you intend to come back, then someone's living on your property, and if you
It's
want
no
to
longer
stay, you
yours.
need to convert.
Yeah,
Um, and that's obviously the infrastructure of the city is not great to begin with, but now I'm sure it's strained beyond any kind of sustainability.
it
So
is.
it's a real problem.
And the
Um,
other thing that I wanted to share is that the Nigerian bishops have really been making attention, and they've been for lack of better words, have been screaming out, this has got to stop. It's not only the southern part now, they're kidnapping priests, religious. Many have been killed for ransom and all of that for money, and is really is having a humongous impact. And so, being that this is happening, hundreds of people are being killed, and um, this has not been the mainstream. So most Americans, Europeans are completely unaware of this. And it
yeah,
got so much of a scream that President Trump heard about it and it's became international news. And when a few weeks ago he went in and was dealing with the ISIS people that are in northern Nigeria and trying to take care of that. And so it finally has made international news. But as we know with news, it will be in the people's mind for about 2 weeks, but thereafter they, move on to the
yeah, they're
next
on to
news.
the next thing, right?
Yes,
Yeah, they're on to the next thing already. And meanwhile, Nigeria continues to have its situation.
yes,
And education is a big problem. We were talking about, they just are taught the Quran and that's it. I was recently in Pakistan, which is also, a highly Muslim country, pretty aggressive in some parts of the country, not everywhere, but some parts of the country. And education is a big part of that. If you're dealing with the more educated Muslims in Pakistan, you're going to have an easier time. It's more kind of the mob that really, will unite around an idea that is really, aggressively ideological that spills over into violence against Christians, right?
yes.
Um, but I was talking a while ago with a bishop in the southeast of Nigeria. I won't say where, but he had the ambition to create a school for some boys in a remote part of his diocese. And he looked at me. He said, "If I don't educate those boys, they're future kidnappers.
Mm,
They won't know what else to do. They have no other economic, uh,
yes,
opportunity. All they're going to know is that if I take this person and I hold them for ransom, I'll get some money eventually." And
yes.
so education in Nigeria is a big a big thing. It's a very worthy investment. So what you're doing with the university and the lower schools, it's really important stuff. Um, we're looking at doing this fundraiser in May, kind of a crazy athletic event. I'm gonna kind of iron out some of the details. Hopefully, you're going to be with me. You'll be in the car, and we're going to go from Rome to Bologna somehow. Maybe some running, maybe some biking, definitely some pain. But what is kind of the vision and the dream for the clinic? We want it to be a hospital, but like, is this a way that you want to evangelize in Lagos, or
Yeah.
is it just kind of a project and it's just one of many, or is it really like a core thing?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned to you before, um, our approach with this clinic, hopefully hospital, our approach is from a holistic approach. We treat mind, body, and soul, the physical elements. We also treat the spirit, the body, the soul, and so that has been our approach. And we have run this hospital as a Catholic clinic. So everyone knows that this is Catholic and the impact that it has. And so um, our hope is, as I mentioned before, it doesn't make a difference of who you are, you come to the hospital. And the impact is, you know, yes, we are told to preach the good news, but when people are physically hurt, when people are hungry, and all of those physical elements, you have to treat that first. And so the physical element is the most important thing. We want to treat the body, treat the person with sickness. And then that is actually what the good news is about. Jesus also healed the sick and in a physical way brought them into good health. And so he also met them when he also, um, on a couple of occasions, turned bread and fish and multiplied it and fed the people physically. So you also
Yeah,
reach the primary elements of the person. And so when you
right.
do that, the other level is next. And so,
Yeah,
so as
it's
far as,
hard to preach to someone if they're dead.
yes,
Um, and yeah, and even if they're struggling, physically or financially, like my whole MO is to free the mind, right? To free clergy to preach, so you're not worried about these things as much, and then to free people from their concerns so that they can live more spiritually, right? So
yes,
this interplay between the world and the spirit, right? And eventually, we mature into the life of heaven where there is no temporal concerns. But the point is, if you're focused on where your next meal is going to come from, you're probably going to be driven into vice, into sin, into crime, and not ever be able to think, and raise your mind above those things to think about, contemplation or prayer or the sacraments or these higher spiritual things. So whereas voluntary poverty is a great help to holiness, involuntary poverty is not, and so that's something that I think about a lot. And yeah, it definitely applies in the context of healthcare too. It's something that I've worked on. I was working on this clinic in Malawi, and it's the same kind of thing. If people are really hurt and sick, um, and then the church is not bothering to help them, it really is. It's a counter witness. It's a countersign to the gospel. So it's just fantastic work, and it's just so impressive that you got all the paperwork done. It's ready to go. I
yes,
know the final number that has kind of been talked about is about 2.6 million to build everything and get it all together, like all the equipment. I think that was the number we had mentioned before, but if there's other numbers, maybe we can present those when we do the fundraiser. We're also working on this documentary or kind of film project related to the Christian persecution situation. Can you tell us a little bit about Veritas Studios and the province's work with film and media?
okay, sure, yes. We have, as you mentioned, the name of our studio is called Veritas Studio. It's also in Lagos, at right just within walking distance of one of our other big parishes, St. Dominic's. And so It's run by Father Jude, um, and so he runs it. It's a fully functioning studio. It's small, but we do a lot of good work with that. We have YouTube channels and other media that we belong to, and that's quite has been quite successful. And so um, we have been working with you with the vision of a documentary in the north and other areas of concern, and
Yeah.
working
Still
with
evolving the vision and
yes,
exactly how we're going to do it, but it's
absolutely,
definitely a priority to tell the stories of the people who are suffering
yes,
at
and
the
so
hands of Boko Haram and ISIS and
yeah,
these tribesmen.
absolutely. Yeah, and as you said before, that we have the studios, the equipment, but we are also, in order to get the story, you want to go out into where the people are at. Sitting inside of a studio is not always ideal. You won't always get the full story, but sometimes you have to go out, and so that is what um, Father Jude and his crew does, who
Yeah.
and create this documentary is where our vision is for that.
Yeah, and it's got to be very difficult and challenging to fundraise for these projects. Obviously, Nigeria struggles with its reputation with
Yes,
finances and transparency, but the order does not. Um, the order is credible, but still, I know that people, when they hear Nigeria, they kind of just take a step back. But I want to assure my viewers that Father Patrick is the one who takes the donations. Okay, there's an American 501(c)(3), and everything is legitimate. And so, if you want to help him out with some of this work, we'll leave all that information in the description below, or you can get in touch with me directly, and we'll set something up uh, when you're ready to make a donation or just get involved somehow. So, anything else you want viewers to know about Nigeria, Catholic life in Nigeria, Dominicans in Nigeria? What sort of some closing thoughts or exhortations or hopes that you have?
sure. Um, when we speak about the Christian environment, Nigerians are very in love with God, and their Catholic environment is extremely large in Nigeria. And we alone in Lagos, we have four parishes. As I said, we're in the north, we're also in the east, and we have several parishes in the east, Port Harcourt, Enugu, and some other areas. And so, but in Lagos in particular, again, with a high level of population, as I may have mentioned, I served as associate pastor at St. Jude Mafaluko, and we also have St. Dominic. Those are the two biggest parishes and the impact. And so I would just speak about Mafaluko. The We
Which
have
is right
such.
next to the clinic. It's kind of in the same area.
Absolutely. Yes, it's all
Okay.
there. It's very close to the airport. And because of the population, we on Sundays alone, we have approximately 10,000 people who come to Mass on Sunday. And
Wow.
so we have seven, eight Masses throughout the day to attend to them. Within the church itself, Mafaluko, St. Jude, we can fit approximately 2005, but we also have other areas where people can sit, and we have televisions where they can observe what's going on in the inside of it. They can't get into there. What I wanted to say is that um, we Dominicans are there to help them with the sacraments pastorally and the impact. I served there almost 7 years, and so um, I'll just give an example. On Saturday before Sunday Mass, we have morning confessions, evening confessions. And so the morning one is 3 or 4 hours straight, sitting as priest, listening to confessions of hundreds of people who come for confession. The evening one is even longer on Saturday. So we see hundreds and hundreds of people on Saturday for confession. And so that's an example of people take their religion seriously. And so the impact that we as Dominicans of meeting them, our preaching style is different. And so our preaching style attracts people, and so we bring them, and many people come to the to the churches that we run, and sometimes maybe it kind of irritates some of the bishops because they need to go to where they're living at, and so. But he said, don't treat it like a cafeteria. But people are attracted to the Dominican style of preaching, and so that is why we have such a large population, and so we do have an impact in any area of Nigeria that we are serving.
Amazing. Father Patrick Morrison, OP, thank you very much. And we'll make sure to leave in the description a way for people to get in contact with you and get involved.
Absolutely. Emin, I really appreciate this time that you've given to me to have a conversation with you and other people.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And we'll see you again soon, I hope.
All right. I hope so too. All right. Have a
Thanks.
good day.
God bless.